r/AskReddit. What do you know is true without evidence? What are you certain of, right down to your bones, without proof? Back when I was 10, there was a competition for school kids to write a treatment for an episode of Doctor Who, with the best one being developed into a full episode in the next series and the winner receiving a writing credit. I was a huge fan of Doctor Who at the time, and the competition was actually run through schools, so my teacher made the entire class do it, but I was very excited. I began writing a story about the Doctor landing on a planet full of defective Cybermen, whose programming had gone awry and had been left on this asylum planet to rot. The Doctor lands there in response to a mysterious distress call from a woman and attempts to find and save her while avoiding the dangerous dysfunctional Cybermen and the looming threat of planetary destruction at the hands of the normal Cybermen. I finished my short treatment and gave it to my teacher to submit. Unfortunately, it turned out the competition was very strict about the formatting of submissions, and mine was returned because I had used the wrong formatting in some way. It seemed like a weird reason. I was a bit disappointed, and that was the end of that. But then, a year or two later, there was an episode of Doctor Who called Asylum of the Daleks, which seemed incredibly similar to my story except with Daleks. So incredibly, eerily, similar in fact, that to this day I am absolutely convinced that Stephen Moffat saw my script and came up with a formatting excuse so that he could remove me from the competition, steal my story, change the bad guys and claim it as his own. I have zero evidence. I don't even still have the treatment I wrote, or any letter from the BBC about my submission, and yet I know in my bones that Stephen Moffat stole his script from 10-year-old me. Back when I was 18, I got my first tattoo, the Squaresoft logo on my upper arm. It was 2001 and I was also on my own in a new state. I was and still am a huge RPG fan, and it's the height of my geekdom. Well, I sent in a picture of me and my tattoo with a short letter about me and my favorite games to official PlayStation magazine. They published my letter and photo along with the caption, "We don't know whether to be impressed or frightened." The very next month they started a Tattoo of the Month section, and I am absolutely sure 100% that I either started that or was the story that proved the concept, the test. Unless someone can come from that team's time and tell me I'm not, I'll always believe I was the start of that. There's a travel agency that's been around in my town for as long as I can remember. I wholeheartedly believe it's a front for the mob. That being sick with a bacterial infection as an infant and almost dying is the reason why I'm never sick despite being a super unhealthy person. When I was in 10th grade I came down with one hell of a sickness. Not like any regular cough and sore throat sickness. I'm talking like 104 fever, hard to see, could not even put myself into the reality that I was awake type of sickness. I remember being in school, I was a perfect attendance kid, and being pulled out of class to talk with my sister who lives across the state, but I know that couldn't have happened and I think I was just having fever dreams while awake. My point is, after this I never got sick. Ever. I threw up once in my 20s from drinking too much the night before, but I've never had a fever or anything of the sort since. The most I've gotten was a sore throat from allergies. It's been over 15 years and I still haven't gotten sick. No evidence to say this is why, but I've always told people the same thing as you. I watched Flight 93 go down. I would never share that in real life because it's freaking grim and no one would believe you. The geography of the reports are off. I saw it clear as day from Kent State's main campus, Ohio. I didn't know what I was seeing other than I remember thinking that plane is way too low. We had an aviation college so planes were common, and too big and it's jerking around like how a toddler drives a Power Wheels truck. Continued on to class. You don't want to be late even at a liberal college. What you almost certainly saw was it being taken over by the hijackers. During the hijacking, which was at 9:28 a.m., maybe a 9:30 class. During the takeover it was very jerky and lost a lot of altitude, and it took a while for the hijackers to stabilize it and get it under control and turn it around. Edit, if you look at the track of Flight 93 it likely would have been visible from the Kent State campus on its westward path. On its post-hijack return flight it passed farther south, over the top of West Virginia. Gut bacterial imbalance can change a person fundamentally, physically, mentally, emotionally. One day they're going to cure some impossibly vexing diseases and conditions when they figure out that it's all connected to what lives in your guts. That Andy Dufresne was guilty in the Shawshank Redemption. It's never actually proven that he didn't kill his wife and her lover. We just have his word and a story made up by an inmate that wanted to be liked by Andy and his friends. Also, what are the chances that his wife and lover were murdered the same night that Andy was going to kill them himself, before he changed his mind? Whoa. Just realized that the entire story is narrated by Red. And Red really doesn't know whether Andy was guilty or not. Only Andy knows Red just believes he's innocent. There is some Godzilla stuff at the bottom of our oceans. Deep sea gigantism will not fail me. If it's any consolation, if giants do exist down there, they will probably stay down there. Ocean creatures tend to stay in their zone of water pressure because that's what their bodies have adapted to. Some have more range than others. Ever seen a blobfish? Ever seen what a blobfish is supposed to look like at the depth it's supposed to live at? It gets all messed up when it gets brought to the surface because of the water pressure differential. See also, giant squids. One of the only reasons we know they exist is because they die and float up here, or are very close to death and can't maintain proper buoyancy. They don't want to be up here, they prefer the crushing blackness. My personal theory, massive lobsters. Lobsters are biologically immortal. So long as they don't starve, get a disease, or get killed by another creature, they will live forever. Additionally, every time they molt they grow bigger. Logically, this means there has to be at least one absolutely gigantic lobster that's hundreds of years old hunting sharks down on the ocean floor. That the funeral home by my house is run by some sort of criminal organization. I always see the same gangster-looking guys hanging out in front of it smoking cigars and drinking beers. All natural things are a part of a cycle. Everything that has ever existed is natural. Everything is part of a larger cycle. The universe is a cycle. The Big Bang is only a step in that cycle. Something came before. Lack of entropy will not be the end. Something will come after. Nature never makes just one of something. This has all likely happened elsewhere. I believe I am responsible for Alex Rodriguez turning around his horrible season in 2009. Yes, I know that many sports fans think they can influence a player or team, but I really did it, folks. Allow me to explain. Like many Yankees fans, I was frustrated with A-Rod. He was always a bit of a dick, and he choked in high-pressure situations. It seemed he'd only get the big play when the Yankees were already clinched to win a game, but never when we really needed that hit. So, A-Rod started off the season abysmally. By the time the Yankees came to Atlanta, his average was at .213. You see, I live in Atlanta, so I bought the whole series. It's only 1 out of every 6 years that my boys visit Atlanta, so I get the series every time they do. Another thing is Yankees fans are really good at taking over stadiums. And the Braves are a fair-weather team. So we were able to chant and cheer, and basically drown out the Braves fans. We even were able to Yankee roll call games 2 and 3. I'm sure you guys think that's super disrespectful, but whatever, go Yanks. So we lose game 1 and A-Rod goes 0 for 4. He gets booed a few times because we're getting fed up with this. Game 2 Joba gives up a HR to Frenchie in the 5th and we're losing 1-0. Cervelli ties it in the 6th and then Jeter and Damon get on base. A-Rod is up and we need a clutch hit. But A-Rod never gets a clutch hit. People were already starting to boo him. So I made a decision. If I can get him to be cheered on the road, maybe it'll fire a spark and get him out of this slump. So I start going crazy with "Let's go, A-Rod. Clap, clap, clap clap clap." It picks up steam. The Yankee boos start to quiet and Yankee fans around me pick up my chant. After all, we need a clutch hit, so why not? It spreads as A-Rod's at bat continues. Within about a minute, Turner Field is booming with an A-Rod chant. I think it's the first one I've heard in months, and it's while they're playing on the road. A-Rod crushes a liner to deep center and drives in both runs. Hell yeah, I still don't like you, A-Rod, but attaboy. We end up winning 8-4. So game 3, and I decided I'm chanting A-Rod all game. It's my personal goal to get him out of this slump. So every at bat, "Let's go, A-Rod. Clap, clap, clap clap clap." First inning, he hits a 2-run homer. We all erupt. Second inning, the chant is louder, and he drives in Jeets with a single. Fourth inning, we're even louder and he reached on an error. Fifth inning, A-Rod walks. Seventh inning, he drives in Jeets and Damon with a single. And finally he strikes out in the 8th. But all in all, A-Rod went 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs. And he had Yankee fans support the entire game. Support that I hadn't seen in months. A-Rod went on to play the Mets and have solid outings. Steadily his batting average went up though from the .213 it was when he arrived in Atlanta to .286 by the end of the regular season. Then he absolutely crushed it during the postseason. So, yeah, I contributed to that. I know players can get hyped by the fans, so I figured I'd show him some support because even though I didn't particularly like him, We needed his bat to perform. I've actually changed my mind on him since he's retired. As a commentator now, he's actually really likable. And he clearly knows his stuff. So, A-Rod, you're good folk. There is probably 7 degrees of separation from everyone and a serial killer. That number is probably lower than 7. Edit, make it 3 degrees. I don't know the real number. The number doesn't matter to me, really the point was we're all close to a serial killer. Roommate in college had the serial killer/assaulter of the UVA girls as his football coach. Claimed he was the nicest guy in the world. Gave each other a big hug after a game and in my buddy's words. Pretty sure his next interaction with a human being was assaulting and murdering an innocent young woman. It still messes me up. I always think about that tweet some guy made that went like, my dad used to work with Ted Bundy, and every Friday he would say, see you Monday Bundy. My phone is listening to me. It's simply not a coincidence anymore how my targeted ads change directly related to and after a conversation. People say we are just more predictable than we think, but I mentioned something I haven't even thought about for years and there it is on Instagram. A buddy of mine had a weird experience with this one. We were hanging out, playing a crafting game on Steam. I begin mining, and he accidentally falls into the hole I'm in, because it was kinda hidden in the foliage. This happens a few times, so he makes up a pretend organization with initials he made up, think FCC or CIA, saying their regulations require holes to be marked. It's a fun joke. Anytime he wants me to do something he asks from the point of view of it's part of the guidelines, it's the law, there will be fines if you don't comply. Never once was it typed, searched, anything. Just verbally spoken. And then we both start getting ads for a company with those initials, apparently belonging to a real company that we were 100% unaware of. That the entire US mattress industry is a front for criminal organizations. Virtually every city has more mattress stores than it needs. When was the last time you bought a mattress? So then why does a city of 80,000 have like 7 separate mattress retail places within like 6 blocks? I completely agree that there is definitely something more to the mattress store industry. The 3 times in my life, since college, that I have bought a mattress, these stores are always standing empty of customers until I roll in. It almost feels Truman Show-esque where I stop through to browse and all of a sudden, 3 to 4 cast members come in as customers to maybe promote the positive vibes of buying a mattress. I could go on for far too long about this industry, it is so weird. I've always thought mattress stores are a front, but he's right, I've never noticed, but I have always been the first one in the store. Damn, that's weird. I've never met anybody who used to work at a mattress store. There are only people who have never worked in mattress stores and the people who I see working at mattress stores. That gardening is the secret to happiness. Sounds super strange, especially coming from someone like myself, an ex-World of Warcraft gamer. I had kids, got busy with work, wanted out of the suburbs, got some land in the country, and started planting stuff. Years later I have what I call a food forest. I have replaced lawns with fruit trees, bushes, vines, flowers, all woven together to mimic a natural forest, except everything in it is edible. It has changed my life completely. I just think there's something about being outside in the sun, feet on soil, hands in dirt, planting stuff. Watching it grow in the background of your life. Going out and checking on it and watching how much bigger it is getting. Watching life find it, and now you get to live with the natural world, not isolated from it. Birds making nests in your trees, frogs making home in your ponds, seeing bees all around your flowers, butterflies everywhere. Rabbits and squirrels moving in, then owls moving in to eat those. It's this wonderful trophic cascade that you started, and it's incredibly rewarding. Plus, being able to just walk outside and get chemical-free nutrient-rich dinner is amazing. You can see my food forest in my post history if anyone is interested in seeing what I'm doing. I actually think a big reason depression is such a big thing these days is because we have all become so disconnected from the life that we evolved in for the last 6 million years. We evolved walking around savannas and forests, pulling food off bushes and trees, out in the sun, feet in the soil, hands in the dirt. We couldn't be further from that, living inside our isolated homes, cars and offices. It's no wonder we're all so depressed. I think gardening is the secret to happiness. That the afterlife exists. There is way too much unexplained paranormal stuff to not just brush it all off with a rational explanation. Now I'm not someone who hears/sees something and immediately jumps to the conclusion that it's a ghost, but if I exhaust all reasonable explanations then I'll believe what I saw to be paranormal. Demonic entities, poltergeists, spirits, angels, shadow people, I believe in it all. Veganism started out as a cute and helpful movement. I believe the chemical and energy industry saw an opportunity there and spent a lot of resources on derailing vegan movement in order to emphasize the effect of animal agriculture on the climate, to reduce the public hate on the energy and chemical industry. Too bad around 99% of the entire global warming phenomenon is related to the energy and chemical industry. The polluting industries, led by Koch Industries, convinced a lot of people, in the US, Republicans, that global warming either does not exist or it's not man-made. They do not need to spread propaganda among these people, they are on their side already. But vegans are different, they are eco-friendly people. Convincing these people that you are not behind global warming is really beneficial for polluters. Vegans are environmentally conscious, so derailing that movement would be the best for a polluting industry. A lot of Greens would blame cows instead of the actual causes. This way people would protest animal farms instead of oil refineries or fertilizer plants. Which is the best case scenario for the polluters for two reasons. 1. The public does not blame the energy and chemical industry. 2. The public blames a competitor to the fertilizer and fuel industry, think of manure and biofuel. This is how industries derail the public discourse. This is disinformation. I give you an example if you think this is unheard of. This is the same campaign how the sugar industry blamed saturated fat for every health problem in the 60s. The evil sugar industry used profits to buy scientists, who then published one-sided and pseudoscientific studies about how saturated fat is unhealthy, forcing people to ditch fat but eat a lot of sugar. After a few decades, this scandal was made public by people like me, simple economic journalists noticing a pattern. By that time, this disinformation campaign caused the biggest healthcare crisis of the developed world. If you are diabetic or you know a diabetic friend, chances are this is the reason for the illness. If you talk to a modern vegan, you can tell there is a huge systematic disinformation campaign going on. They will claim animal agriculture is worse than transportation, for example. Or that 50% of emissions come from animal farming. Ridiculous. And they base these stupid claims on one-sided and pseudoscientific studies. Most of them are openly financed by the energy industry. The rest? Not so openly. 80% of artificial emissions comes from creating energy. Animal farming accounts for 3 to 7%, not 50% what vegans claim. And even this 3 to 7% is not something we can reduce, even if we don't eat meat. This is because meat is not the only product of animal farming. We would have to replace products like leather, manure, cotton, wool, and stuff like insulin or natural glue. When we look at the big data, it turns out you cannot effectively reduce emissions by less animal farms, mainly because the other main reason for global warming is how artificial fertilizer is made. Replacing manure with fertilizer is not really helping anyone. The Haber-Bosch process, how fertilizer is made, is responsible for almost all the artificial greenhouse reactive nitrogen molecules in the air. Not animals. Fertilizer, which is used to grow food for vegans. Go figure. That the human being, at its core, is more than a physical form, meaning if you created a human brain, down to the atom, you would still fall short of a human mind. This world is strictly determined. There is no free will if we look at our lives from the cosmic level. Like, our thoughts are bound to chemistry and the laws of physics. This also means that everything started from the Big Bang. At the same time, we have freedom because we cannot imitate all particles in the universe, thus we cannot 100% predict anything that will happen in the future. Damn, we sometimes can barely tell what happens now and in the past. Even our sensory organs send us signals from the past. The light needs to reach our retina, signal from it needs to reach our brain needs to understand it and conceptualize it, which takes time. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and tell us something you believe in with no evidence.